water, earth, fire, air, ether if you're Aristotle. Hey, it's Cass, your friendly internet tired writer. Why are elemental magic systems so popular in the world of fantasy? Hundreds of superheroes have elemental powers. Dozens of fantasy worlds, both in movies and in books, are set in worlds that have elemental magic systems. And yet most of the fantasy audience hasn't grown tired of this kind of magic system. People are tired of super strength and super speed, but we still love to watch people conjure storms and shoot fire from their palms. The elements are ingrained in the fantasy genre, and yet we haven't grown bored. Why? What makes elemental magic so effective? First things first, what are elemental-based magic systems? Elemental magic systems, or EM systems, as I will be calling it throughout this video because it's shorter, allow its users to manipulate that world's elements. The most common ones are the classical elements: water, fire, earth, and air. And then there are some systems that have an entirely different set of elements, like take Marvel. The Infinity Stones are technically elemental magic because each stone represents a fundamental part of the creation of that universe. Elements are usually natural, but they can be man-made. I'm pretty sure it was Skylanders, that video game that had a mech element. Man, that unlocked a part of my brain I haven't accessed in a while. The most famous elemental magic system is probably in Avatar. The bald guy, not the blue guy. That world has 4 basic elements: fire, water, earth, air. The list of worlds with magic systems based on the elements are extensive. Go onto the TV Tropes elemental magic page, just dozens, freaking dozens, maybe even hundreds, honestly. I'm not good at math, but there was a lot. So we know what elemental magic systems are, but what makes them so effective as magic systems? The obvious answer is that it's just cool. I mean, who wouldn't want to shoot fire from their hands or move mountains? But as much as I wish cool was a legitimate argument, it's not. So here are 2 actual reasons why I think elemental magic systems are so effective. Reason number 1, simplicity. Most people, especially people who enjoy fantasy, are probably going to be familiar with the 4 elements. I mean, I learned about the elements in science class during the Greek dudes unit and the periodic table unit, which was slightly harder. I'ma bend some H2O real quick. On the off chance you meet a person who has 0 knowledge about the 4 elements, it's really not that hard to explain. I mean, it doesn't take an entire chapter of a book or an entire episode of the TV show to explain how elemental magic systems work, unless you make them super complicated and convoluted, and in that case, why would you do that? But simple does not mean creative prison. Take Avatar, still bald guy. The world has the 4 basic elements, but each element has subskills. Airbenders can manipulate air, but if they're powerful enough, they may be able to fly or spiritually project. Waterbenders control water, but because they control water within life forms, they can also manipulate blood, plants, and can even heal. Firebenders manipulate fire, but they can also manipulate lightning and even cause explosions. Earthbenders, can you guess what they do? Might be able to bend metal, lava, and may even have seismic sense. Good vibrations, got them good vibrations. And eventually we learned that the world of Avatar has a 5th element, the energy within one's own soul. Energy bending. So yes, Avatar is based around the basic 4 elements, but because the world allows for variations on those elements, it keeps things interesting. There are 3 basic rules to the Avatar magic system. 1. Bending is typically accomplished through martial arts. 2. One person can only manipulate one single element. 3. Only the Avatar can manipulate all 4 elements. Extremely basic rules, but they make the powers more interesting, because if everyone was able to bend all 4 elements, yeah, that would get a bit boring. When everyone's powerful, no one is. Element systems are easy to explain and the rules are almost always simple. But there are so many different versions of EM systems that it's incredibly hard to make them boring as long as you put the effort in to develop them. But a cool thing about elemental magic is that you don't need a super unique system for audiences to like it or for it to be effective. Because most fantasy fans will like plain old fire manipulation. But another cool thing is that you can make it as unique as you want, and people will still probably understand it. Take JoJo, Bizarre Adventure, not Siwa. The main power force in JoJo are stands, the physical manifestation of a person's soul with unique abilities. While stands can have powers that feel so complicated you need an astrophysics degree to understand them, most of the time you can understand them with just a high school diploma, aka me. Many of the stands have powers that fall into certain elements. For example, many of the JoJo villains have time-based powers, and time is definitely an element in the JoJo universe. One guy can stop time, another can skip it entirely. There are several different variations of it, but you still understand how they work.
I don't know what the that was.
So that's the technical side of elemental magic systems. Now what about the more abstract side? Reason 2. Themes. Elements, especially the 4 classical elements, are ingrained in cultures around the world, physically, linguistically, and spiritually. Everyone to a degree can relate to the elements, classic 4 or otherwise. According to BuzzFeed, I am an earthbender, or a waterbender, or a firebender. I've never gotten airbender though. Not sure what that says about me. We use elements to connect the physical world to the abstract world. It's a way we can understand spirituality and the supernatural better, manifesting spiritual realities into physical realities. Take the zodiac. Each sign is associated with a certain element. I am an earth element, I guess. The common thread here is that I am stubborn. Another example comes from Christianity. Christians are baptized in water, but the water itself doesn't actually change the person. It just symbolizes the change. And in the Bible, Christians are baptized with fire by the Holy Spirit. Maybe that's God showing power in a way humans can understand. Both fire and water in many different cultures and spiritualities symbolize cleansing. And think about how in so many different creation stories, the world began as primordial water. It's found in Egyptian mythology, Greek mythology, other mythologies I didn't feel like writing down. But is there actually water on the edges of the cosmos, or are we just describing it in a way that we understand? In Hinduism, pranayama is a yoga breathing practice meant to find freedom. Breathing practice. We still breathe air, right? And think about Earth, how it's often associated with death and decay, but also with life. We are returned to the ground when we die, but it's also where we lived. It's where we grew our food, where we built our homes. And light and darkness might not be classical elements, but they obviously have very strong spiritual and moral associations. Light equals good, dark equals bad. Associations I have never liked, but that's a different video. Story themes are often explored through elements. In Lord of the Rings, the ring wraiths fear fire and originally feared water, but there's some dispute about that. But in the movie At the River, the wraiths do seem to fear the water. And it kind of shows the cleansing power of water in a way, almost as if evil can't pass through it. And their fear of fire is really interesting because fire is often associated with evil, but it's also associated with life and passion and spirit. Almost like a double-edged sword, as if saying that just by living, it's very easy to turn to evil. And most people know that the ring is a metaphor for sin. In other words, one of the main themes in Lord of the Rings is being explored through an element. And also, I have started reading Fellowship of the Ring. I am no longer a heathen. An even better example is Avatar. The themes of the Avatar universe are intricately connected to elements. In Avatar, personalities can sometimes resemble certain elements. Aang, the main character and the Avatar in The Last Airbender, struggles with earthbending because it is the most opposite element to his personality. As a native airbender, he is used to avoiding conflict. They are a pacifist nation. And that pacifism, that avoidance of conflict, is ingrained into his personality and his fighting style. But as Aang learns to stand his ground and not avoid any conflict that comes his way, he unlocks his ability to earthbend. Air is freedom, but it's also avoidance. Earth is substance, but it's also stubbornness. As shown by the next avatar, Korra. Her personality is most contrasted with airbending, so she struggles to airbend. She lacks in her spiritual side, which is very important in airbending. She's stuck only in the physical world and in that particular moment. But as Korra cultivates her spiritual side and stops being so focused on the physicality of her powers, she learns how to airbend. Another example, because there's so many, is Zuko's story. My favorite Avatar character. He uses his anger to fuel his firebending, and it slows his personal growth and his power growth. But as he changes and evolves and redeems himself, he realizes that fire is not anger, it's life, and his power grows because of it. And Zuko's sister Azula is a very powerful firebender, but like most firebenders, she uses anger to fuel her power. And she has let her anger and her trauma consume her, and it physically manifests in extremely powerful elemental power. Like the more angry you are, the more powerful you are. See how the elements directly tie into the themes? I'm not talking nonsense most of the time. In practically every book and movie written, you can probably find some sort of reference to an element. They are in our metaphors, they are in our religions, the way we think about life and people and death. I mean, hell is literally associated with fire, and heaven is literally associated with light and air. I like how I put in like different spiritualities to like flesh this script out, but I think you guys can tell that I'm a Christian. Because you can definitely tell that I know way more about that than I do about the other stuff. Although I do know an embarrassing amount of Greek mythology, actually probably more than Christianity. Am I a heathen? When your fantasy world has an elemental-based magic system, there are so many themes you can explore with it, making your magic system not just a prop or a weapon, but an actual part of the point. The elements in Avatar are part of the point. Yes, they look cool, but they help develop the themes, and Avatar has some really good themes. I'm not saying that other types of magic systems can't be integrated into the themes, but because elements are part of such a vast array of cultures, I think they would form stronger connections and associations with the audience than, say, a spell-based system would be able to. People can connect with fire and water and light and darkness. Not sure how connected people are to Latin. Then again, I've never read or watched Harry Potter, so what do I know? Conclusion. Elemental magic systems or elemental superpowers continue to be one of the most popular additions to fantasy worlds. And most of the general fantasy audience hasn't tired of it. And I think it's because it's so effective. It's simple to understand, it allows enough creative freedom to keep things interesting, and it also allows the magic system to be intrinsic to the themes of the story. This connects the audience to the magic system on more than just an interest or visual level. It connects them almost spiritually, maybe even emotionally in a way, because of the way elements are ingrained in culture. If the audience connect with the magic system, whether through the themes the system supports or just based off of their own experiences and beliefs, it invests them into the world you created. And it's just freaking cool. I'm done ranting now. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Another reminder, this is all my opinion. I'm not an expert on anything, but I am a writer, so I like to think I'm a little bit knowledgeable, because if I wasn't, that would be concerning. But, you know, don't take my word as gospel. Now for some self-promo. I have written 5 books. Before I Turn 18 is a literary anthology, basically just about the transition from adolescence to adulthood. It is an existential crisis in a book. If that interests you, It's on Amazon. This is my fantasy trilogy I wrote when I was 13, 14, and 15. It's called The Mortal's End Trilogy. It's about a war, there is magic, there's sorceresses. I wrote it when I was 13, so the writing isn't Tolkien level, but it's a fun time. And if you're looking for a fun time, Amazon. And this is We Shall Reap. It is a fantasy, and it's set in the same world as the trilogy, but I wrote it when I was a little bit older, so the writing will be more developed. And it's basically about a couple groups of people have to go on this quest to find this ancient thing. It's kind of morally gray. Some of the characters absolutely suck. Morally, I think I did a good job on the characters. If that interests you, Amazon. Also, elemental magic. Point of the video. And I know not every person of my audience is going to see this, but I am very grateful and thankful to everyone who was supporting my channel recently. I can't believe how much it's grown in the last like 3 weeks. Just the fact that like at the time of recording this, one of my videos has over 3,000 views is insane to me. Intimidating, but insane. And I just wanted to thank you, and yeah, I'm excited to see what happens in the future. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.